Old powers waken, shadows stir. An age of wonder and terror will soon be upon us. An age for gods and heroes.
The glass candles are burning, and you're listening to the Obsidian Nights podcast. Hello, my sweet summer children. I'm back with the juice to get you through the long nights. And today on Obsidian Nights, where we go through A Song of Ice and Fire chapter by chapter, we are doing a Game of Thrones Tyrion 4. And I have a special guest, Lady J. Lady J, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is, I'm so nervous. My name is Lady J. I am the host of Conversations with a Brown Girl podcast. I'm also a blogger at 4browngirlsblog.com. I am a big Game of Thrones fan. I have read the books several times, back and forth, forward and back, watched the show. Not happy with how it ended, but yeah, I'm Lady J and I'm happy to be here.
Yes, I'm glad that you could make it. And we are going to be diving into Tyrion. Like, overall, what's your thoughts on Tyrion? Do you like Tyrion?
I love Tyrion. He's actually one of my favorite characters. I love reading his points of view in the book because I was talking to my mom today and I was just telling her, like, with Cersei, you can feel like the haughtiness and the pridefulness and the disdain she has for people. With Jon, you feel like the moodiness and the brooding, and with Sansa, you feel the prissiness. But with Tyrion, like, he's fun, he's witty, he's extremely sarcastic, and he's probably one of the characters that I quote the most. So I just love Tyrion.
Yeah, Tyrion has some of the best one-liners. Like, he really does have some of the best quotes. And I like Tyrion too. I really love Tyrion when we get into A Dance of Dragons. A Dance of Dragons Tyrion is my boo because he's dark and I love dark characters.
Yes.
So I like him in A Dance with Dragons. Hated him in a season 8 of Game of Thrones, but that's neither here nor there. It's neither here nor there. Today, though, we are he's been kidnapped. He's been kidnapped by Catelyn Stark, and he's figuring out that he's going to the Eyrie.
Yes.
So the chapter opens up and it says, as he stood in the pre-dawn chill watching Chiggin butcher his horse, Tyrion Lannister chalked up more debt owed the Starks. Steam rose from inside the carcass when the squat sellsword opened the belly with a skinning knife. His hands moved deftly, with never a wasted cut. The work had to be done quickly before the stink of blood brought Shadowcats down from the heights. So they're basically butchering a horse because they don't really have food. They're on the road. And Tyrion doesn't really like the idea of eating horse because although Tyrion is an outcast among his family, Tyrion has never went without. He's always had the best of things, the best wine, the Dornish wine, the Arbor Gold. He's always had the best food. He's never lacked gold. So,
he's always been rich.
Yeah, he's always been rich. So he's had a hard life as far as him being a dwarf, but he's a rich dwarf. He's the son of Tywin Lannister. So this is really out of his league. And he's do you take me for a Dothraki?
Yeah. And he even talks about that. I think it's referenced at this point in time, I was about to eat a roasted fowl and about to lay in a comfortable bed. And he's bitching that he's roughing it.
Yeah, he's roughing it. I mean, at the inn, about to, enjoy life, and then he's going on his way back to King's Landing or to Cashley Rock or wherever he's going, and now he's a captive.
Yeah. I read this chapter twice, and I wrote a couple of thoughts down, and then at some point, I do want to definitely talk about. I found a lot of similarities between Catelyn and Tyrion. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, when I read it, it kind of jumped out at me. And like I said, I'm better when I write things down. So I'm a teacher at heart. Well, I'm a teacher, but so I did like a T chart and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But so one of the things that if we could just jump right in. So at this point, they are on the road and he's basically talking about how uncomfortable he is and how he hates the Starks and how he wishes, he's talking about, he's noticing all these things. And one of the things that I picked up about Tyrion is that he's extremely observant, and that he can read the room very well. And one of the things that really kind of stuck out to me when he was going over the memory of how Cat kind of stood up and called everybody out and say, "Oh, I'm taking him here. I'm taking him to Winterfell. Help us take him to Winterfell," is that he basically could see the Cat thought she was killing it. And he basically saw like some of the holes in her plan, like how he noticed the Freys weren't as into defending or going with them to Winterfell, and how certain people from different houses were looking doubtful. So that's one of the things that kind of stuck out to me, is that, he's a very observant person. He knows how to read the room, but he kind of saw where Catelyn had failed in her plea to kidnap him and take him to Winterfell.
Yes. I mean, I agree with Tyrion is observant. I think Catelyn is observant too.
Yes.
I do see some parallels there, because the last Catelyn chapter, she was very observant about like the landscape around her and the people around her, even though she didn't capitalize on it as much. But one thing about Tyrion is Tyrion always seems to be steps ahead of people.
Yes.
And he has that, I always say he has like this Machiavelli type of like leadership skill. I don't want to say leadership skills, but just like he has this Tywainism, I'll call it. Like, where Jaime doesn't. Cersei thinks she does. She almost does, but she's too stupid. Like, she's too petty. She's not stupid. She's petty.
And prideful.
Right. And Tyrion just isn't that.
Yeah.
So I think that's where, like, he's separated from his siblings, but I do see that parallel that you're talking about.
Yeah, and then and it's funny that you bring that up, because in the chapter when he is riding and they take the hood off of him and he goes, "Oh, we're not going to Winterfell, we're going to the Eyrie," and Catelyn kind of gives him this look like, gotcha. And the funny thing is, like, it seemed like he was more angry, because it said, "I've always prided myself of outwitting people," and I kind of got the feeling that he was more pissed off at the fact that Catelyn had outwitted him than he was of being kidnapped.
Yeah, kind of. I agree with that. Like, because he hates being outsmarted, because that's his thing.
Yeah.
That's Tyrion's thing. So he doesn't like that. So I agree with that assessment as well. We're getting off to a hot start.
Okay. I got more.
Keep it coming. Keep it coming. That's why we do Obsidian Nights with the Sweet Summer family, because we want to hear all point of views.
Okay. Okay. So here's a good one. So I can't remember, because sometimes the book and the show always, when it comes to like quotes and things, but I don't know if it says it in the text, but I really do believe that Tyrion does have a heart for cripples, bastards, and broken things. And something that I noticed in the chapter, that he looked at or referred to Cat's hands. And how in the beginning she showed him her hands, like, this is what your cat spar, whatever word she used, did to me, and how he referred to her hands like 2 or 3 times in the chapter. And I think he felt for her. And I think, literally when her back was against the wall, when they were being attacked by the Hills tribesmen, he again referred to her hands and how she couldn't really hold the dagger because of how her hands were broken. And I think that, that just shows that Tyrion does have a heart for broken things. And I think also he feels guilty because he knows that his family had something to do with
That's what I was gonna get to. I
Yeah.
definitely think that Tyrion is onto, okay, something happened. Jaime, Cersei, Joffrey, somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's onto it. Like his in a storm of swords, like he can't stop thinking about it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think he does feel for Bran,
Yeah.
and he does feel for John, and I think he kind of feels for Catelyn, and I think Catelyn, even now, I think Catelyn kind of realizes that she made a mistake,
Oh yeah.
because in the last Catelyn POV where she took Tyrion, she was, she didn't have time to actually think. George
Mm-hmm.
even made a point to say there was no time to think. There was only the moment to act.
Mm-hmm.
And if she had thought about it, she probably wouldn't have done the same thing.
Yeah. And even because I had basically, that was one of my points. Like, when Tyrion was telling her, like, why would I basically hire someone and then give them my own dagger? That's stupid. He was like, I'm not a fool. And it talks about how there was a flicker of doubt. And I really think that she believed him. And I also think she, in her own way, trusted Tyrion, because when they were in that fight, she allowed him to have a weapon, and she was like, swear to me that after we win, you'll drop your weapon. And he was like kind of snarking. He was like, yeah, I'll give you my Lannister word. And after the fight, she allowed him to keep his weapon. And I think deep down that there was a trust that she had. But like you said, that she was so knee deep in it that to backtrack now would just make her look bad, and would just, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah,
it was just a storm either way, but
even if she doubted that he didn't have a part in it, and even if she, thought, well, maybe he didn't do this, but at the same time, she likely thinks that she can get some kind of information out of him. And like, she doesn't know, like we know, we have the benefit as the readers to know that Tyrion is the good Lannister.
Yeah.
So Tyrion's last name being Lannister alone, it probably gives her, pause on trusting him.
That's true too. Yeah. But but Tyrion also knows how to work that Lannister name. He's very good at knowing his role as a Lannister. He plays it so well. He's always mentioning, paying debts, whether that's a good debt, because in the book, it constantly, in that chapter, he's constantly talking about remembering people's names because he's going to get vengeance. But yeah, I think he definitely knows how to play that Lannister role, and to use it to his advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, Tyrion does do that, right? My father, like, not as much as Jaime, but he does do that. Like, he uses his gold, he uses his name, he uses everything, his positions, to have things done for him, which in this setting, in that world, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it's smart and clever that he does that, because in any other instance, like, if he wasn't a Lannister, he wouldn't have the influence that he has.
Yeah. But I think he also uses that a lot because he is a dwarf.
Yes.
Jaime doesn't really use that, because Jaime is like one of the best swordsmen in the land. If Tyrion was of average height and was able to fight, I don't think that he would use it as much. But that's like what I was saying. Like, he really knows how to use that to his advantage, because like you said, in this world, it's acceptable. And in this world, people know that if he didn't have that name and that gold behind him, he would be like either dead or like one of the dwarves at the not the red wedding, the purple wedding.
Yeah. A fool.
Yeah.
And, he wanted, actually, when he was little, he wanted that. Like, he wanted to do that. But Tywin, like, forbid him. Like, he wanted to, like, wear costumes and do cartwheels and shit. And Tywin was like, absolutely fucking not.
Yeah.
Not in here.
Yeah. Tywin is very interesting man. Very interesting character.
Yeah. So they're on the road going to the Eyrie. Catelyn Stark said when they took Tyrion that they were taking him to Winterfell.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyrion is expecting to go to Winterfell.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, he's not going to Winterfell. He's going to the Vale. And the thing about this that I don't like when it comes to Catelyn, and I talked about it in the last Catelyn episode, is it would have been smarter to take Tyrion to Winterfell. Like, it really would have been smarter, or to River Run, because she doesn't know Lysa anymore. Like, she does not know. She knows who Lysa used to be. She doesn't know that she's freaking crazy. She's a crazy person now.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't know that. And just to go, and then on Lysa's end, like, your sister is bringing some high lord, like a very high lord with a powerful family. You've kidnapped him and you're bringing him to my castle. So I could see how Lysa would be upset with that arrangement as well.
But I also feel like so Catelyn is very observant, right? But I think she also lacks some kind of common sense because, she's, like you said, she doesn't know her sister anymore. That letter came out of nowhere. I would kind of be suspicious if I haven't seen my sister or heard from her and all of a sudden I'm getting a letter. That's just me. I would just be a little suspicious, or I would try to reach out to her in some way. But she kind of like believes people blindly, it seems like even with Peter.
Yeah.
Like when Tyrion was like, Peter is a liar and he looks out for himself. And she's like, no, he loved me. That love was true. And
it's foolish for her to believe that a guy that loved you when you were a kid, who your fiance almost killed him, he reached out to you, you never wrote him back, still is gonna rock with you as hard as he used to. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like it's like she kind of gets, it's like, as for observant as she is, she's almost ignorant in the same way when it comes to certain people, like people who are close to her or who she thinks is close to her. Like she's kind of stuck in the past, like that past version. She can't see them for the future version or the present version.
Yeah. And, I just want to give like some points to Catelyn Stark here, because when we talk about like the smartest characters in the books and the most clever characters in the books, you usually think of Tyrion as like one of the top 3, if not the top.
Mm-hmm.
And she has outsmarted him.
Yeah.
She's outsmarted him. And it says, like, this quote, "Even now, long days later, the memory filled him with bitter rage. All his life, Tyrion had prided himself on his cunning, the only gifts the gods had seen fit to give him. And yet, this 7 times damned she-wolf, Catelyn Stark, had outwitted him at every turn."
Yeah, I read that and I just started cracking up.
And you were right about you saying that pissed him off more. He said that knowledge was more galling than the bare fact of his abduction. So you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I cracked up at that point because I was just like, you've just been kidnapped. You could be possibly killed and you're more upset that someone outwitted you?
Yeah.
But okay.
But the thing about Tyrion that I really like, well, I feel like all of the characters do this. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I feel like all of the characters that are POV characters all make friends with like outcasts. Like Jon does it with the wildlings. Daenerys does it with the Marinese people and the Yunkai and the Dothraki, like with Missandei and Grey Worm. Arya does it with like the Brotherhood and the Hound, and Sansa does it with like Ser Dantos, and Tyrion does it with Bronn.
Yes.
And the mountain clans later on. But like they all have these outcasts of friends. And Stannis does it. Stannis does it with Davos, but Stannis isn't a POV. But like it seems like everyone does it, but like Cersei.
Who does Cersei like other than herself?
And Taina.
Well,
for a time.
Yeah, the only to I don't.
She's just using her.
Yeah. As much as I hate her, I love. She's probably one of my like top 5 favorite book characters, though.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree. She's one of mine. I love A Feast for Crows because of Cersei, Jaime, Brienne, Arya chapters.
Yes.
Love A Feast for Crows.
Yes.
I can't wait to get to A Feast for Crows and Obsidian Nights in the year of 2023 or some shit.
Well, I would love to be back to talk about Cersei because, like I said, I think one of my favorite parts of I can't remember what book it is because all of them seem to run together through my head, is when she's burning the Tower of the Hand. And she's just talking about how like she's just like basking in the glow.
Yes. Like the Mad King.
Yes. Like she's just like enjoying every moment of it. And I was like, this chick is nuts.
Yeah. She's going crazy. If anybody wants to be on an episode of Obsidian Nights, all you have to do is you can message me, but preferably message at Nim's Shadow on Twitter, and I'll put her link in the description box. And she's doing the schedule, and she will schedule you for an episode with a record date and time. And I think we are scheduling for a Clash of Kings now.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. Fun times. Fun times ahead. And just let her know you want to do a Cersei one. Or we have a long time before we get to Cersei. So if you want to do something in Clash of Kings, we can do something in Clash of Kings.
Okay.
So I wanted to talk about the ride to the Vale. It's treacherous, right?
Very.
It's very mountainous terrain. It's raining. It's wet. It's cold. They don't really have food. It's like they're roughing it. And Catelyn is wasting no time to get there. Like, she's trying to get there fast as shit. Tyrion is kind of like trying to like give advice kind of to Catelyn. Yeah. And everybody's like, nobody's talking to you, imp. Like, leave us alone. And Catelyn is like, let him speak. And Tyrion Lannister just like sits down and starts giving counsel. Yeah. Like, that's basically like he just sits down and starts giving counsel. This is a cruel land, Lady Stark. You'll find no succor until you reach the Vale, and each mount you lose burdens the others all the more. Worse, you risk losing me. I am small and not strong, and if I die, then what's the point? That was no lie at all. Tyrion did not know how much longer he could endure this pace. It might be said that your death is the point, Lannister, Catelyn Stark replied. I think not, Tyrion said. If you wanted me dead, you had only to say the word, and one of these staunch friends of yours would gladly have given me a red smile. So, Catelyn doesn't want to kill Tyrion, obviously. I mean, Catelyn can't kill Tyrion without a trial. Like, Tyrion's a High Lord. Certain things have to happen. Really, she should have never kidnapped him. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
That was a dumb mistake, I think, highly based off emotion.
Yeah, it was dumb. But Tyrion is basically like, you know what? That's not my dagger. How many times do I have to tell you it's not my dagger? Like, whatever you may believe of me, I'm not a stupid man. Only a fool would arm a common footpad with his own blade. And then Catelyn's like, why would Peter lie to me? Yeah. Tyrion has said, why does a bear shit in the woods?
I love it. I love it.
Because it is his nature. Lying comes as easily as breathing to a man like Littlefinger. You ought to know that, you of all people. And what does that mean, Lannister? Tyrion cocked his head. Why, every man at court has heard him tell how he took your maidenhead, my lady. That is a lie, Catelyn Stark said. So, Littlefinger is going around court telling people that he took Catelyn Stark's maidenhead. Now, the story that I believe happened was he thought he was sleeping with Catelyn, but it was Lysa.
Yeah.
But he thought it was Catelyn.
I remember, was that in the books? It's been a while since I've read, like...
It's been a while since I've read it as well. But I
remember hearing or reading that somewhere.
I'll have to go back and find exactly what it was. But In his head, I think he thinks that he fucked Catelyn. And Catelyn did not fuck him. So I feel like that statement, though, kind of like backed Tyrion up, like backed her assurance in Tyrion a little bit. Like him saying that totally threw her for a loop. She's like, okay, well, this doesn't make any sense because I know I never had sex with him.
Yeah.
And she looks at him with coldness on her face. Peter Baelish loved me once. He was only a boy. His passion was a tragedy for all of us, but it was real and pure and nothing to be made mock of. He wanted my hand. That is the truth of the matter. You are truly an evil man, Lannister. And Tyrion is like, and you are truly a fool. And I'm like, yes, Tyrion. Yes.
But again, that whole blind, like
loyalty to Peter,
like this is it. What? How do you know his love? I don't know. I just, like I said, as wise as Catelyn is, as observant as she is, as much as she gives good advice, and she knows the ways of, like, she knows how to play the Game of Thrones, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's just dumb when it comes to certain people, like with Peter. Like I don't get it.
The lady that I had on, Melinda, for my last Catelyn chapter, she made a very good observation as Catelyn seeing things as they were and not how they are.
Yes.
And I agree with that 100%. Like, she even gives that advice to Ned. Like, you knew who Robert was 14 years ago. But you don't know who Robert is now. But she doesn't use that same advice when it comes to her sister, when it comes to Peter Baelish. So, yeah, she falls short sometimes. And I think you could say that a lot of it has to do with, like, the pressure that she's under, because she's under a lot of pressure. Like, her husband has went away. Her daughters have went away. Her eldest son is now basically Lord of Winterfell, and then her other son is crippled now, and like she's just under immense pressure.
Yeah.
So she might not be her sharpest, right now.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite scenes in the show is when they are standing in front of Lysa. And
she's breastfeeding.
Yes, and Tyrion and the cat just kind of look at each other like, what in the hell have we gotten into right now? That's like one of my favorite scenes. It's so funny.
Yes. That, like, his face, when Tyrion's face is just like, he's just like, do you see this shit? This is where you brought me?
And then she kind of looks like, wow, he was right.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to point out that is this first of two references that talks about someone slitting someone's throat in this chapter. There's two references. The first one that talks about giving a red smile, and then the second reference is when they are actually fighting the Hill tribesmen. Tyrion takes one of them down, and Cat actually comes behind him and slits his throat.
I wonder if that has any significance, like, on future events.
It caught my attention because I was like, two references of throats being slit. Could be a coincidence, could be not, but I don't know. Like, Martin, his writing is very deliberate to me. And I know that I've heard people refer to him as like, his writing is like a garden where he just kind of plants seeds.
Yes.
So when I read that, I was like, okay. And I thought it was interesting that Tyrion had observed Cat coming behind someone and slitting their throat.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of how she dies.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I just thought that was pretty interesting.
I think it's interesting too. And I'm always looking for little stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and it seems like every time you reread, you pick up something else that you missed the first time. And it's like, how many times do I have to reread this before I get everything?
Yeah, I've read this. I've reread Game of Thrones. It has to be at least 10 times. In certain books, I've read multiple times. Like, I love the Dornish chapters.
Oh, yes.
Those are like some of my favorite. And I'm so upset that they effed it up in the show. Like, I was like, yes, they're bringing Dorne in. And then when they did those trash episodes, especially the way they killed, it was a mess. But those are like some of my favorite chapters. But I just love like knowing what I know and then going back and reading it. Just like that nugget when I mentioned Cat coming behind someone and slitting his throat, I was like, wow, I wonder if that's like foreshadowing in some kind of way.
Yeah.
But, I love rereading books.
One of my favorite things that happens in Dorne is Ariel Hoda and Sir Ares Oakheart.
Yes.
And I really like Darkstar.
Yeah,
I think he's very interesting.
Yeah, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on him. I've been Lucifer Means Lightbringer.
Mm-hmm.
He's done a couple videos I've been watching, and I was like, okay, I got to start getting into Darkstar. But I've been watching a couple of YouTube videos on him, and I'm like really, really interested in his character and where they're going to go with that.
Yeah, me too. So basically, they are attacked. Their party is attacked, and they arm Tyrion. Catelyn arms Tyrion, and they fight, and they win. But Catelyn Stark lets Tyrion keep his axe as they ride to the Eyrie, which means that she trusts him.
Yeah.
And she's almost 100% regretting what she's done at this point, because if she can trust him to hold an axe, I don't think she thinks that he had anything to do with killing her son.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. So the way the chapter ends, Catelyn was telling Tyrion what Littlefinger told him. And then the way it ends is she looked at him, lips pressed tightly together. As I was saying before, we were so rudely interrupted, Tyrion began. There is a serious flaw in Littlefinger's fable. Whatever you may believe of me, Lady Stark, I promise you this, I never bet against my family.
Yes, love it.
And in the previous chapter, in Eddard 7, there is a quote where Renly and Littlefinger, it's either Eddard or Sansa, it's during the tourney. They're talking, and Jaime Lannister loses to the Hound. And Renly says, if the imp was here, I would have won twice as much. And Ned just pays no attention to that.
Wow.
So Renly basically said that Tyrion always bets on Jaime. And Tyrion just confirmed it in this chapter. So it's kind of like, even though you're in Tyrion's head, even though you know he had nothing to do with it, Renly has just confirmed it in front of Eddard, and Tyrion has just said, I never bet against my family. So it's like it all ties together. George R.R. Martin is so brilliant. But overall, I think this chapter, there's not a lot really going on in this chapter. I feel it's mainly Tyrion giving backstory of him being kidnapped and how upset he is that Catelyn has outmaneuvered him.
Yeah.
Didn't see it coming, but it sets up a really good introduction to the Eyrie.
Yes. And how crazy Lysa is.
So that is Tyrion 4. Did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about some of the similarities that I saw between Cat and Tyrion. It's not like a whole long list, but they both have physical difficulties. With Cat, with her hands, because, the guy cut down to her bone, essentially. Tyrion has, his legs cramp up. He always talks about his legs cramping up, and he has to massage them. And then by extension, because I'm thinking of Bran, because Cat is his mom, they are both have a lot of anger towards the Lannisters, even though Tyrion is a Lannister. Like, he constantly talk about he hates his father and he hates his sister. And he's always thinking of ways to get back at, especially Cersei. Both of them are fueled by rage and vengeance. And you see this basically as the books progress with Tyrion, how he's basically fueled by rage and vengeance, wanting to get back at people. But then you also see it in this chapter too, where he's like trying to remember people's names and faces. So I guess when it's time, he can enact his vengeance.
Oh, yes. He's vengeful as fuck.
Yes, very, very. And then something that I thought was interesting, and I think Sansa says this quite a lot, that about how a lady's courtesy is her armor.
Mm-hmm.
And I think both Cat and Tyrion do that. They use courtesy as their armor. Cat because she is a woman during that time, but again, Tyrion because of his physical stature.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it like early in when he's remembering about, oh, well, if Lady Stark thinks that I'm guilty, I will go with her. And I think the guy's name is Jack or something, put down your arms. And so he uses his courtesy as an armor, but he also uses his wit and his sarcasm and all of that as his armor. And it kind of reminds me of when he told Jon Snow basically like,
I was just thinking that.
Yeah, like you're a bastard, I'm a dwarf. We know it, everybody knows it, own it, and that way no one can ever use it against you. So he accepts his flaws, and he kind of makes jokes about himself or whatever.
Yeah.
In the previous chapter, he's, poking fun at Alistair Thorne, like, oh, I have steel in my hand. Let's fight. But he uses his courtesy and wit and humor as armor. But they may be courteous, but they're not afraid to get their hands dirty because Tyrion will throw down. And Kat, she held her own as well. We talked about this. They both believe in people that they trusted, and they were betrayed by them. So Kat believed in Peter. She ended up betraying him. And Tyrion believed in Shay.
Yes.
And he trusted her, and she ended up betraying him. And both of them went to the dark side. So both of them went to like full blown dark side. So we know Kat is
Lady Stoneheart.
Lady Stoneheart. She's been resurrected, and she is on a war path to destroy everyone that was involved with the Red Wedding. Like has blinders on, like as close as her and Brienne were, as loyal as Brienne was to her, doesn't matter. You have Lannister Steel, like she is out for blood.
Yes.
So I'm really kind of interested, like, Tyrion by Dance with Dragon, he's like signing his life away. Like, I'm just going to get back at everybody.
Right. I'm the greatest Lannister killer of all time.
Yeah, like I'm going to get back at everybody. So I'm interested to, like, we know where Lady Stoneheart Rage is going, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm interested into seeing where Tyrion's Rage takes him.
I think it's going to take him towards Cersei. For sure. Yeah. I also wonder what Tyrion's reaction to Daenerys is going to be when they meet. That really interests me. Tyrion and Daenerys meeting, because what we got in season 8, I don't think it'll be anything like that.
No, not at all.
And we've already seen Tyrion in Dance like completely manipulate a kid into basically walking into his death, because Fagon, whatever he is, if he's real, if he's not, we don't know. Mm-hmm. Tyrion basically, manipulates him into not listening to John Cunnington and just doing his own fucking thing. And Tyrion knows that that's going to put him in extreme danger. Yeah. And he doesn't give a fuck.
No. And I think, and that's the whole point. Like, Tyrion just gives zero fucks at this point. Like, he doesn't care anymore. And that's something that I noticed in this chapter in Tyrion 4. Like, it talked about the anger was there, the rage was there, but he was able to kind of squash it, deal with it, put it away, process it. But like by Dance of Dragons, he was like, I am fully embracing Darth Tyrion. Like, he is full blown, I'm the dark side.
Yeah, I mean, well, part of what's going on with Tyrion by Dance is he's found out that the Tysha story was a lie.
Yeah.
So he has that to deal with. He's killed his father. He's killed Shay. Even though he hates Cersei, and even though he hates Tywin, like the fact that his father and his sister were willing to execute him.
That's
and stack his trial against him. And I believe that I think Cersei really thinks that Joffrey was poisoned by Tyrion. Tywin has to know that's not true.
Yeah, and I think Tyrion always knew that his father and Cersei hated him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that trial really just kind of caused him to snap.
And then Jaime dropping that Tysha bomb on him.
Yeah, I think that just caused him to snap, and because he started like messing with the kid on the boat, like, you know, little things, and I was just like,
just being very antagonistic, like the Tyrion that you get in a Game of Thrones that meets Jon Snow and gives him all of this good advice. That is not the Tyrion that Fagon got to interact with on the Shy Maid. Not
at all. Like completely dark side. So I'm really kind of interested to see where his rage takes him. But then I thought, like you said, we all know that Tyrion, well, at this point in time, is the good Lannister.
Yeah.
But I wonder if somehow Cat knew that Tyrion was the good Lannister. Like if she knew that Tyrion had nothing to do with it and they joined or banded together, I wonder what would have happened.
I think that she does know. Because at the end of the day, I feel like she is a good judge of character.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was a mistake for her to let Jaime go.
Yeah.
Jaime ultimately kept his word.
True.
Like at the end of the day, Jaime has sent Brienne to find Sansa, to protect her, to keep her safe. So he has kept his word to Catelyn, and Catelyn's not even alive. So that goes to show that she could trust him. Even though it was a bad move for strategically for Robb and for herself, it was still, she has a good judge of character.
But I mean, like, what if they actually like teamed up together? Like
Lady Stoneheart and Dark Tyrion?
Well, no, like, at this point, like in Tyrion 4, like early on,
it would have been amazing.
I would have loved to have seen. I mean, of course, we'll never know. I mean, it would never happen. It wouldn't make for a great story. But I just think that had Tyrion, like, if they sat down and like really talked, and Tyrion would be like, "Let me help you," I wonder what awesomeness, because the two of them are, like you said, are like the top two smartest, wisest, wittiest characters, in my opinion, the whole George R.R. Martin world, Game of Thrones world. So I often wonder, like, if they had teamed up, like, how would that have looked? How would that have changed the story?
I mean, it would have changed everything, because they could have went to King's Landing together and said what happened, and then Joffrey would have been fucked, because Joffrey's the one that hired the cat's ball.
Yeah, to try to impress his father.
To try to impress Robert.
Doesn't even care about him.
Yes, basically. But yes, this was very fun to do. I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And please come back. And that is Tyrion 4, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.